The Springboks have defeated Italy 45-0 in the second test match in Gqeberha. And in this episode, you are going to get a front row seat to my immediate observations at full time. Here are my top 5 full-time hot takes. Number 1. The performance was much better than what we saw in Pretoria. The bomb squad was also better in the second half compared to what we saw at Loftus. But if we're honest with one another, it still wasn't scintillating. What we saw at Loftus was a very solid first half performance by our boys. But then in the second half, when the bomb squad came on, things actually fell apart a little bit. There was chaos, there was a lack of structure. It also looked like maybe there was a little bit of complacency, and a lot of the older players, if we're very frank here, looked their age. The feeling was that Dr. Rassie Erasmus, in making so many changes for the second test in GQ, would bring in a little bit of an injection of youth. The average age of the bomb squad, just by way of example, in Pretoria, there was only one man in the bomb squad who was under the age of 30. In GQ, there was only one man who was over the age of 30 in that bomb squad. Now, as I say, the performance was better. Last week, I gave the Boks a 6 out of 10. This week, I'm giving them a 7 out of 10. Now, you might say that that's only incremental, but I think that overall, everything was just a little bit better, or in some cases, even considerably better. One thing that is worth noting here is that we suffered a red card. Jasper Visser headbutting an opponent, Danilo Fischetti as it turned out, the Italian loosehead prop, and that meant that we had to play a large portion of the match with only 14 men on the field. And no doubt that caused a lot of disruption, that caused the players and the team to adjust to the situation, and I have no doubt that it also affected the overall game plan. What Dr. Rassie Erasmus was hoping to see from his players overall, think big picture, that was not something that was able to be executed in GQ because of us having to adjust to just having 14 men on the field. Number 2, scrum domination. Now, something that was quite interesting is the way the match began. We chose to kick off. Manie Lebok didn't go for the traditional style kickoff that you and I are used to seeing. Instead, he chipped it forward by what looked like maybe 4 meters, 5 meters, and it was Andre Esterhazen who collected it. Of course, the kick didn't go 10 meters, so he was blown up, and that meant a scrum on the halfway line, and that is exactly what Doc wanted. He wanted a scrum early on, right at the beginning. The idea is that we would assert our physical dominance up front. But the truth of the matter is that it took about 6 scrums before we actually won one. Now, I'm not saying that we lost the other scrums, but what we did see up until that point was a lot of collapsing scrums, and we saw parity at certain times, and then, as I say, maybe 1 or 2 where we actually did push them and they were going backwards. But then, call it a stroke of genius, before half-time, just after the half-hour mark, Doc sent on Oxenchair to replace Thomas du Toit. Now, nothing against Thomas du Toit. I think he's a great player. I think he's an important player. I think his versatility is something that is going to prove invaluable for the Springboks in years to come, because don't forget, Thomas the Tank is able to play loosehead as well as tighthead, so that makes him an important player. And I would say, provided he stays injury-free and doesn't suffer a drastic dip in form, he will go to Australia in 2027. But Oxenchair is the best loosehead in the world and is a powerful scrummager. He comes on and immediately he takes the Italian tighthead prop Simone Ferrari to school, almost so badly that it was a case of, you need to get off this field and go back to scrumming school, son. And you know what? Not only did we destroy them in that first scrum that Ox was on the field, but it directly led to a try. And that is the impact that Oxenchair has. So number 2 is indeed talking about scrummaging, but I want to highlight the impact that Oxenchair had when he came on to the field. Number 3, the breakdown. Now, last week was let's be honest, unacceptable in what happened at the breakdown. I don't think that the Springboks are the best breakdown team in the world, not by a long stretch. If anything, it's one of those areas where I feel we're actually a little bit on the weaker side. Now, again, it's all relative because we are the world champions, we hold every available trophy to us, but I just think that overall, pound for pound, man for man, the breakdown is an area where we are not, or let me rather say where we do not excel. And last week, the Italians exposed us quite badly. And don't forget, there are certain players that are not even in their touring party here because of resting or because of injuries. But what we saw in this second test in GQ was a far better showing by the Springboks at the breakdown. Having said that, the Italians still competed not only bravely, but actually extremely competently. So much so that I would actually say that overall, the Italians again won the breakdown. And yes, I know that last week at Loftus there were accusations of offside and hands in the ruck and little things like that. Call it gamesmanship if you want. But it was important for us to also adjust to that. And we saw that earlier in the week when our laws expert, Jaco Paper, actually said that they had approached World Rugby and asked questions and asked for clarity around certain things regarding that breakdown. So you would expect that this week we were going to make sure, at least we were going to be sure. And I still think that a man like Manuel Zuliani had a brilliant test match for Italy. I think he was their man of the match, and he was outstanding at the breakdown. We had no answer for him, to be perfectly honest. I thought Marco van Staden had a great test, especially at the breakdown, but also just every other area of play. Van Staden was our best forward in this test match, I thought. And I also want to say Danilo Fischetti, the man who was headbutted by Jasper Visser. This man is dangerous at the breakdown. He's a loose head prop, but he competes with ferocity and competence at the breakdown. And I think that the Italians also benefited by having Sebastian Negri come into the side. Ross Vincent also did very well. And overall, I thought that the Springboks were again second best at the breakdown, but not as badly as what we saw in Pretoria the week before. So it was much better in that regard. Number 4, Grant Williams is the best scrum half in South Africa. We have got many scrum halves. Faf de Klerk was the standard bearer for a long time. Kobus Reinach, kind of the 2IC. There was a time when Herschel Jantjies was seen as the heir apparent. And over the last couple of seasons, we've seen men like Grant Williams come into the picture. Jaden Hendrikse has also featured there. Last week, we saw Morne van den Berg playing in the number 9 jersey. But I think all things being equal, and as much as we love men like Faf and Kobus, I mean, after all, we're talking about 2-time Rugby World Cup champions here. I think right now, at this moment in time, the best scrum half in this country is Grant Williams. I think his ability to arrive at the breakdown is superior to everybody else. He gets there quicker than the others. I think his distribution is actually really, really good. Slick passing is his signature style, if you ask me. Not saying that the others are not great at distribution, but I think that in terms of comparison, Grant Williams is better than the others. I like the way he runs. I like his pace. I think that maybe Morne van den Berg and even to an extent Kobus Reinach might be better in terms of making those darting runs from the fringes, kind of like what we used to see from Joost van der Westhuizen. But it's not like Williams isn't good at doing that, and I think that Williams's ability to see a gap or spot a gap is really, really good, and he was responsible for making Edwil van der Merwe's try in the first half, the first one that he scored, that is. So that was great to see, and overall, I just think that the fact of the matter is that he is our best scrum half. He's had a lot of injuries in recent times. It looks like he's back. I'm delighted that he is. And all things being equal, he is the man that needs to start in that 9 jersey for us, especially in the biggest test matches. I'm thinking the All Blacks in New Zealand in September. And number 5, Lineout Simulation Innovation. We saw this in the first half. We had a lineout and nothing particularly special happened. Ball made its way to Williams, into the back line, take it forward. There's a breakdown. Williams, the ball is recycled. Williams is about to redistribute. And what does he do? To his right, he pops the ball up to Ruan Norkier, who is lifted up a la line-out style. And what happens as he comes down? A maul is formed, and we drive the Italians. Okay, now that happened in the first half, and when I saw it, I went, oh wow, this is different. This is new. We haven't seen this before. But nothing actually came of it. But you know what? When you have a cool move or you're trying something different and the expectation is that it should result in a try, then you have to try it again if it didn't work the first time. And so in the second half, we did it again. Line out, ball is quickly handed over to Williams, ball goes into the back line, meters are gained, there's a breakdown, now we have a ruck. Now instead of pick and go and driving in that manner, why not pop it up to Ruan Norkier again, who gets lifted up a la a line out, he comes down, and now you have support players to form a maul, and effectively almost right in front of the posts. Now you have a maul drive which, let's be honest, has been effected from a line out, right? Because that's effectively what has happened here. And this time it did work. We drove our way over, and Malcolm Marx scored a beautiful try, and you could just see the happiness and the delight and the satisfaction on Doc's face when that try was scored. It was beautiful. It was fantastic to see. And wouldn't it be lovely if we did that against the All Blacks in September? Now, I'd like to know what you guys think. Do you agree with these 5 hot takes of mine? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comment section down below. And by the way, guys, you know what was great about this victory? It is my birthday today. So the Springboks have given me something of a birthday present, and I'm very, very grateful. And you know what? You can give me a birthday present too if you like. Down there, you'll see there's a button called Super Thanks. It's a heart with a $ inside of it. It'll give you the opportunity to make a small donation to my channel. Let's call it a birthday present in this instance, and it can be whatever you want it to be. You guys know by now I would love to do this full time. I would love to go to Australia in 2027 and cover the Rugby World Cup for you on a daily basis from down under. And you can bless me with a little birthday present to help me on my way. I thank you in advance. I'd be very, very grateful if you did. And I look forward to speaking to you tomorrow when I do a full deep dive analysis on how the Springboks went about dismantling Italy 45-0 in this second test match in Gqeberha, still known as Port Elizabeth on the N2. See you next time.